Worries. All right, and we are live. Welcome everybody to Nina Goes Live, LinkedIn Straight Talk for coaches and creators. And this month I have Nathalie Cooper with me, and you're calling in from Dubai, right?
I am.
Well, welcome to the show. I'm very excited to talk to you because you are sort of in a world in LinkedIn that we don't deal with that often, which is sort of the recruiter world and the job seeker world. So I'm very excited to get a glimpse of or an aspect of LinkedIn that is a little bit different from what we normally talk about. So Nathalie, just give us a quick 2-minute version of you, who you are and where you come from. And so we have context as we continue talking to you.
Perfect. Hi. So hi, Nina, and hi, everyone watching us. I am based in Dubai, Middle East, like you said. I am a recruiter, but I also help job seekers and professionals level up or optimize, whichever way you want to put it forward, their LinkedIn profile effectively. And how I came about it was, I think, out of a need to find talent on the platform, and felt that not every profile was created equal. And I decided to make it my mission to go and help people to improve that.
Yep. So you started as a headhunter in Dubai. Do I understand that correctly?
Well, actually in UK, but yes, I came to Dubai and continued.
Oh, okay. You are originally French, right?
I am indeed. Yeah, I'm a French expat residing in Dubai.
Okay, good. Excellent. Good. So you were one of the first recruiters in the Middle East that actually was trained by LinkedIn directly, right?
Yes and no. So LinkedIn set up here in 2012, the headquarters in Dubai. And I was part of one of the first of the recruiters here that decided to purchase their recruiter license. And as such, we were invited, and I think we still do it to this day, but we're invited to train several times a year with them in order to actually understand and use the product that they were selling us better.
Yeah. So what did you learn, or what did they teach you that you still use today? What is it, 14 years later? Yeah.
Boolean search. I still use Boolean search, and I find that still useful to this day. I mean, it's you can do without nowadays because AI come into play, and understanding the context, etc. But I still find it really useful when I do searches.
So define. I never knew how to pronounce it. So Boolean search. Define that for the audience, for those who don't know what that is.
Sure. So it's effectively in the magnifying glass search bar, you would put the word that you want exactly in between quotation marks. And then you would put either, for example, it would be marketing, not sales, or marketing and sales. And the or and has to be in capital letters, or marketing and not sales, etc. And all those would be people with only one of the title, both of the titles, or none kind of thing. So it's one of those it's an aspect of search which narrows down your talent pool a lot effectively. And it's time saving for recruiters, let's put it this way.
I learned about that when I had Sales Navigator, which I don't use anymore, where I came across a Boolean search, a Boolean. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Yes, search for the first time, and I thought it was quite brilliant. Yes. Can you also use it just in a regular search bar on
your? You can now, because AI sort of came into place. You just need to put what you want exactly, and generally AI tends to try and understand the context of what you're looking for, so it helps as well.
Yep,
it's almost more comprehensive since.
For sure, yes. I mean, AI has changed a lot of things. So you started then doing LinkedIn profile reviews for job seekers, and you did that for free at community meetups.
I did.
And so no one else would do it. So I'm curious why no one else would touch it, and what made you keep showing up and doing them.
The demand, simple demand. I had, through the pro bono work I was doing on a monthly basis, I had a lot of people asking for help. and then recommending me, and and that sort of went on, and I decided, well, there's certainly something I can do, because it's in both of our interests, the job seeker and myself as a recruiter, to find them and them to be found.
Yeah.
So before AI came into play, if you didn't have the right keywords, you would not be found. And there were some fantastic professionals on the platform. They had the experience, they just didn't know how to showcase it effectively. So it was a bit of a bottleneck. They were stuck in a jam of not really knowing how to move from that, and I felt sorry, because it was unfair almost. Not all profiles, again, were created equal, and it really led to them being frustrated to some extent and not being found and not really understanding. So it's about not just optimizing, but educating along the way as well, so that they can appreciate what LinkedIn can really do for them once they actually know how to use it. And I find that actually really rewarding to do.
I would imagine.
Light bulb moment.
Yeah, a light bulb moment, and it gives and do you have numbers of how people? I mean, what changed for people once you taught them how to, or case studies?
Yeah, I mean, it can go as little as 12 hours. Used to be.
Wow.
So the discovery from the moment we were together, people have been sort of searching, applying for 3 to 6 months. And then they find me through referral or other means, and then we work together. I'm not saying I'm some sort of magical something unicorn, as I've been called, but I'm not. All I'm saying is I understand how it works, and so when they work with me afterwards, they generally tend to have a text or an email or something that says, hey, I think I should let you know, after just under 12 hours, I've had a recruiter say, your profile's really good, let's have a chat, because I've been waiting for this. So and that's the beauty of it, really, and that's the reward, I guess, I get to, and indirectly, once we work together.
And I mean, this has it shifted, or is it shifting with the event of AI? I mean, I would imagine that your keywords are still incredibly important, but they probably don't have to be as exact anymore with the event of AI, or how has that shifted?
So keywords, you're right, are still very important. They still have value to being present under different section of a LinkedIn profile. So if I go back to basics, you need to have it on and just underneath your name on the headline, then in the about section, then your experience section, and that all counts. But when you're bringing AI, you might, if you miss that, let's put it differently. If you were to miss the headline and you were to miss the about section, as long as your experience section reflects those keywords, you would still now be understood under a certain category by AI, and therefore you might still pop up in recruiters' feed, hiring managers, searches effectively. Or simply your ideal client type as well. You don't have to be a job seeker. It works with anything.
Yeah. So, so that is a shift to it being easier to be found on LinkedIn than it has been prior. Yeah.
Yes, it helps. It definitely helps. It's your AI sort of brings in the professional pattern. So the way you kind of not only say what you do, but interact with others, comment on other people's posts that are within your sector or industry or niche, and it sort of gives a fuller picture effectively.
Yeah, and I mean that's something we talk a lot about, and I know you and I, we both have. We just were, before we went on live, we were gushing over Richard van der Bloem. You're actually part of his tribe. I'm a close follower, and I. As everybody knows who knows a little bit about me, is that I do actually read that 217-page tiny print report from A to Z. I leave out a couple of pages, but not many. And the talk about the fingerprint, the topic fingerprint, right? How important that is now. So I'm curious with keywords. I mean, I remember the old days, not so long ago, when SEO was all the rage, and the keywords was like you paid some person an awful lot of money to find out your keywords for you, which I never quite understood why I had to do that, but you did anyway. Has that changed as well, or is it just another word of saying SEO?
So I'm just going to go with on LinkedIn, on the platform.
Yeah,
I'm not going to talk about Google
no,
or anything outside of LinkedIn. So
yeah.
on LinkedIn, the best way to find the keywords that work for you,
Mhm.
depending on who you are, but for the sake of today, job seekers only, go and look for roles that you actually like. And when I say roles, it's not just the title, it's the job description fully. Then
Mhm.
from that, look at the job titles. Are the job titles reflected in your headline or not? If they're not, you're going to struggle, right? If
Yep.
they are good, you're almost there. And if you can adjust them because they're not, then you will have a better time moving forward effectively. Now,
Mhm.
job titles is a tricky one because I would tend to say every employer, depending on its size as well, has a different job title for similar roles. So you
Mhm.
could be marketing executive in one, you could be assistant marketing in another, you could be marketing manager in a smaller firm, whereas you could be, something different. But the job duties really are similar. So
Yeah.
go and have a look, tally them up and say, well, actually, I've seen 10 marketing manager versus only 2 marketing executive, etc. Tally them up and decide which one actually would work best for you, where you are, career wise in terms of years of experience, etc. But just go with something that's being actually used on the platform.
Which I think brings up for me a really interesting question because, especially us who run small businesses and we make up titles, right? I mean, I remember when I started calling myself a visual storyteller, no one used that. Now everybody uses it. So, in a way, I was doing myself a disservice by coming up with a title that might have sounded really fancy, but most people were probably like, what the heck is that, right? Like when you started having the chief happiness officer or,
I was
what,
going with that. The chief wizard officer is my favorite. Chief wizard officer. What do you do? What magic do you pop up? That's really fun. And it can mean so many things to so many different people. When in reality, most of the time it's a CTO, chief technology officer, or, you know.
yeah,
So it always makes me smile. I say, did you go to Hogwarts school?
yes.
But
Have you
anyway,
met
yeah,
Harry?
and yeah, and that's something that kind of like you hit the nail on the head on that one. It's really important actually. People who got you want to be different, you want to stand out, but that's what everybody's telling you. But don't do that in the headline, please. That's a killer.
All right. I mean, I have at the end of my headline, I do have my little tagline, which is Swiss by design, savvy by New York. But I think it's also so, but in a way, I think now, having heard you speak, and you and I had conversations prior, it also location defines me, which is probably not a bad thing, right?
Exactly. I think it works really well because you can serve different type of audiences. You can
Hmm.
serve definitely the one that might be interested by your Swiss background and the one
Yep.
that you have currently living in the US anyway. So
Mhm.
it's you're established, if I may put it this way, from that angle. You're fine.
Phew. Very true, very true. So when a recruiter searches on LinkedIn for somebody like me, and I don't even know whether a recruiter would ever, but let's say just for the sake of argument, so coach, consultant, or expert, what are they really looking for? What walk me through the search, what that looks like.
Mm. Mm. So they will look at several things, but one, they would look at probably your, believe it or not, your featured content, what you might have actually there. Then they would probably as well look at your activity when you were last active. It's a really good indicator, by the way, because if we know as recruiter that you were last active yesterday, if we were to contact you, you're most likely to respond quite quickly. If,
Yeah.
however, it was 3 months ago, 6 months ago, you're probably a passive candidate, and it's going to be a lot harder to actually get hold of you. Then I would
Yeah.
probably check your contact information, making sure that you have an email that if I want to contact you somehow, not through email, in mail, sorry, I would be able to therefore get hold of you quite quickly.
Yeah.
I would also look at your about section. I would look on how you interact with people. And I would decide whether or not I want to get hold of you on the basis of my brief and how you respond to me as well, seeing whether you're open or not. That's the other thing. You don't need to have an open to work frame, the green banner, effective is the green frame, sorry, on your photo. You just need to be open to conversation. Recruiters will get hold of you whether you have it or not. it won't, change that many things. In fact, for where I'm based in the UAE, I've heard, I guess, feedback from job seekers that it has in some cases been useful, in others it hasn't. So it's actually interesting on that front. So if you got the ideal profile, whether you're open to work or not, recruiters will get hold of you. They need to fill the space. So regardless.
Yeah, regardless. I mean, for me, I would never put it up because I'm not a freelancer and I'm not seeking a job. I run my own business. So I don't want to send the signal of I'm looking to sign a contract and be salaried somewhere, because to me that would be dishonest or misleading. So yeah,
that's fine.
Interesting. All right. So what are the visible? So I mean, we've kind of touched on this, but what are the visible signals on a LinkedIn profile that most people have no idea that recruiters see? I mean, sort of. I mean, we talked about text and search terms. What are the visual signals?
So I mean, if you really go with a visual signal, I would say the first thing to have is a banner. Don't leave the gray default banner there. This is your prime, sort of location. I'm, again, based in Dubai. We have a main highway called Sheikh Zayed Road. It's your equivalent of your billboard on Sheikh Zayed Road, but it's free. This is the only part of, if you have a free or even paid profile, but this is the free part of LinkedIn. So make the most of it, right? Even if it's just simply putting a different color, just, this is something visual matters somehow. And that's one. The other thing is make sure that actually you activate a featured section if you can. It's really nice. It's such a quick shortcut to understanding what you do, who you are, the kind of person and professional, what you like and how you interact. That's a really nice one too. It's a bit of a shop window scenario. I would say have a professional photo. Unless you're a vet, don't put your pets. And don't put your wedding photo either, unless you actually are a photographer doing weddings. So it's one of those, just be professional. We don't want to, we don't want to see anything but you as a professional person. And let it be a recent picture, because, we all change. And so it's nice to know that the person you're going to speak to tomorrow is really the person that appears on the photo, and you will recognize them easily, and there won't be any issues effectively or doubts.
I always say, like, you don't want it to be the bad date where the date shows up and is 30 years older and 20 pounds heavier.
It's a very nice analogy.
Which is, by the way, I'm having my photos redone in November, and I'm super excited. I found an amazing photographer, but yeah, that's another story for another time. So, and for me being visual, it obviously is very important to have the right photographer. And then what happens when, let's say I'm a recruiter and I'm looking at a profile and there is no photo? Do I even interact, or do I just move on immediately?
This is a really good one and a really tough one. So I would say this from where I am located, because we're in the Middle East.
Yes.
And some cautiously would say, I would think because of the perhaps visibility issue that might be triggered, certain women might not feel at ease putting their photos.
Yeah.
Would that stop me from looking at a profile? No, because I would feel like I would be discriminating. Effectively, if the profile is an ideal profile to a brief that I have, a mandate that I have, then I would definitely reach out. But I would be wondering whether the person would actually, despite the fact that I would check on a lot of things, but I would be wondering whether the person would be active or not. Sometimes, as you know, the profile photo doesn't show if you are third connection, but once you become first connection, it is shown, right?
Yeah, you can choose that in your settings.
In the settings. So I wouldn't stop. It wouldn't, from a recruiter point of view, it wouldn't stop me from looking at a profile and reaching out. That's all I would say. But that's because I'm based over here. I do not know in the US what that would look like. It sounds like everyone has a photo already.
There are also, people who believe in their likeness not wanting to be on, especially not the internet. But I would say if that was my case, I would put up a design or something to indicate that I fill the space, even if it's not with the likeness of me.
Yes.
Right?
I would definitely. I would put something there. If you don't want to have your own photo, I would definitely have something instead, or explaining or something. I mean, I think if you're a business owner, regardless of where you live in the world, you have to show up.
I mean,
Because
I'm 100%. And you know what? How many websites do I look at? And it's totally anonymous. I'm like, how are you going to do business with a totally anonymous website? I mean, again, it blows my mind. Yeah.
it's building credibility, and it starts with being you and being seen. And it's a trigger for many, I understand, but it's the start. And if you really want a business, you have to get on with it. And again, the aspect of not having a photo visible on LinkedIn, it has been shown, reduces technically the amount of times your profile is being seen, let it be by a recruiter or anyone else anyway. So if you're unsure, do check your setting in privacy and make sure that you're visible to all effectively.
Yeah. I mean, I would say so too, especially if you run a business, and especially if you are in America. If someone is watching right now, and we were to open their LinkedIn profile, what's the first thing you would tell them to fix? What's sort of the first thing that normally pops up?
Headline.
Headline.
The headline is the most important part anyways. The 220 characters that you have underneath your name. And it certainly needs to carry at least one of the sort of job titles you either have or want to be hired for. And if you want a tagline, make it, but make sure when you add a tagline about, I help X do Z, so that X, Y, Z, sorry, do Y so that Z can whatever. If you're going to choose that kind of tagline, then make sure that the lingo, the terminology that you're going to use actually reflects the industry or sector you're in, so it makes sense. So best example I could give is you can be a simple marketing director, have just that as a title on its own, that works. But you could also be marketing director in the FMCG across the GCC, which then positions you as industry, and then where you are in terms of geographical location beyond what the location is allowed, because you're only allowed one location. So if you're in the Gulf countries in the Middle East, often people working in Dubai work in Saudi Arabia, they work in Qatar, they work across Oman and a couple of other countries. So it's a nice way to say, I'm not just Dubai based, I am actually beyond that. So that works. Another thing about the headline is that it follows you everywhere you go on LinkedIn, and also outside LinkedIn technically. So you comment immediately, there's your name, and that headline is there. People searching for keywords, so marketing director on SEO, in the geographic location where you're at automatically, you might pop up, because although you might not know the person searching that, you might pop up and automatically your LinkedIn profile would pop up with your title. So it's your digital business card effectively. It's important that it works for you, at least with a title. And in that space, I've seen a lot of people add their current employer. So you would be, in my case, it would be my name, then I would have my title. So I say managing director, then I would have, I would repeat at link search in my case or something. And that's not necessary, because if you have a company page, it automatically pops up on the side of that. So use that space for information that's not duplicated elsewhere on your profile. Otherwise, kind of a waste of space.
Agreed. Same with your header, right? You don't need to repeat everything in the header. Yeah. Dan Smolin, who's been watching since the get-go, has a question, and Dan, I'll get to you in a hot second. I just want to finish some thoughts on the headline, because I think it's so important. I think one of the most important things that you just mentioned is that headline follows you around. Like, it's like, I always say, it's like your little dog. I have one of those that follows you throughout the house, everywhere you go. So make that something, it's the first 56 characters that follow you around on LinkedIn itself. Make that something so people can decide immediately whether you're worth checking out or not.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Agreed.
Yeah. So let me bring up Dan's question. Dan is a fellow producer, has also a very, very interesting LinkedIn live show, which you and Natalie actually should check out. It's called What's My Work Fit? And he talks about the future of work, and always has fascinating guests, including me. So hi, Natalie. More LinkedIn members are becoming creators, posting content on LinkedIn, but also on Substack. How does that subject matter expertise creation factor into the work you do for your candidates?
That's a really good question. So over here, Substack is just only about sort of starting, or started a couple of, maybe less than a year ago, I would say. It started to sort of trend. So I haven't seen any relations between the two in terms of discoverability, if that's what you're going with. But if you have an active Substack handle with lots of followers, I would certainly make sure that you can, perhaps in your about section even, redirect people to it so that you don't miss out on potential sort of crossover leads effectively on one or the other. And as for my candidates, so from a recruiter point of view, would I be looking into, well, I just had that about 3 weeks ago, actually, so I can answer this. Yes, I would certainly be looking at the Substack of the candidate that I might be interested in. It gives me a fuller picture, obviously, of who they are and what they post about and how they interact. Is it useful? Yes, to some extent. If it's, I'm in a region where things need to be really positive and non sort of, I guess the opposite of that, so not too negative. So from that aspect, from an employer point of view, it would be good if, I would say from a candidate point of view, sorry, take a step back. From the candidate point of view, apologies for that. I would say, depending on what you write and how you write it, without provocation, quite positive, of value, yes, it will play in your favor. And as a recruiter, I would say, oh, absolutely going to contact that person. However, I wouldn't do it, but I know that we have to weigh that in as a recruiter. However, if it is provocative, goes against what I would say the country we live in would probably frown upon, I would definitely not get in touch, because no employer would want to hire that kind of candidate, as its liability potentially and risk.
Yeah.
So I hope that answered a little bit of.
Great answer. I mean, we really have to be cognizant of what we put out there, because it is all going to be seen and judged, and it's out there forever, right? Yeah, it's very, we are, we realize it or not, we're in a very public space these days, right? All of us. Interesting. Thanks for that question, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, I don't know much about Substack, but I certainly know that a lot of my clients who, are focused on organic growth on LinkedIn, love that combination between LinkedIn, maybe even a LinkedIn newsletter, and then Substack. So,
which seems to be a really good favorite one at the moment. Yeah. And we had Reddit and Quora before that, then that would drive, traffic to name, and that was interesting too. So, yeah.
Yeah, very different. But I find it interesting that we're moving away from audio video services, so to speak, and back into more writing. Although, I mean, on Substack, you can go live as well and all that stuff for sure. Yeah. So I have a question that is also near and dear to my heart as somebody who, comes from Switzerland, lives in America. LinkedIn was in the US, right? And still skews heavily American. You and I had talked about this earlier. I don't know whether it was before we went live or as we went live, about, how it reads anything from university names to how it handles non-English terminology, or even British English versus American English. What happens there? Like, is it, if are recruiters cognizant of going for different spellings? Are you putting yourself into a non-category if you're spelling something the British way? Talk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it always makes me smile, because I went to an American school, and I've learned obviously how to spell in, American sort of English, and then I went to the UK and I had to learn a whole new English way of spelling. But so whenever I write on LinkedIn, it always, I guess, corrects me if I write a word that is English spelling versus American spelling. Does it really matter at the end of the day? No, I don't think it does. There's an interesting part on this. So anything that's rolled out, it's always rolled out in the US. So you guys get prime time on everything. And we generally have it rolled out, if it works well, 6 months or a year later. So an example of that is, I know that in the US you have a salary aspect where you can ask salary band or range, etc., which is not available here in the UAE. We can't do that. You're having collaborations. I think you're having collaborator aspect coming out. I'm not sure when it's going to be rolled out over here. So there are some differences, but I can understand from a business point of view, it is primarily an American company, and therefore they start with their audience there. You are the biggest ones, in terms of millions of subscribers over there. So it makes sense. When it comes to, LinkedIn, does it matter for search? Is that what you were going with? I would say yes and no. So there's an interesting aspect which I haven't spoken about yet, but I will, because it's an important one for me as a recruiter. So there's a misunderstanding, I think there can be, not everyone. There can be a misunderstanding between skills endorsements, and recommendations. And I'll explain where I'm going with that. So skills are good to have, and they're searchable. So you must, I would say as a recruiter, please have skills on your profile. It helps. It helps you being discoverable. It helps us understand what you do. Now, skills are, I would say the minimum would be about 15. The maximum currently is 100. They've doubled that over the years now. Less is more. That's all I would say. Less skills, but more endorsement is more valuable than 50 skills with 0 endorsements, if that makes sense, right?
Total sense to me now.
Also, review your skills. The reason I say review your skills, because what you started with 20 years ago probably isn't where you're going, where you're at now, or where you're going. And skills have evolved as well. So tidy them up, dust them off, remove the ones that are no longer valid. It doesn't matter. It's not like a badge of something you're going to lose. It just has no, if it has no value to where you are today, where you're going, remove them. Make it simple for yourself.
Even if I have 100 endorsements on them?
So that's the maximum number, is 99 plus, right? Once you reach that, you're considered an expert in your field. And profile technically, with that many skills endorsements, etc., will obviously tend to be maybe not so much anymore because of AI, but generally tend to be popping up on recruiters' list a bit faster. It used to be that way. I think it has changed now a little bit as well, but it's also good. It's good to have. And also, remember to have endorsements. So seek endorsements. So go and endorse your, colleagues or people you work with, if you're a consultant, clients, and so on. Because, the good practice is that they're going to come back and endorse you effectively. And then as a recruiter, when I go on your profile, it says that skill was last endorsed, in the last 6 months, when whatever. And I think that shows you're active and you're still doing what you say you're doing, etc. So that's actually a really good one. Yeah. Recommendations are a bit like the cherry on the cake, good to have, but that's not at all searchable. So a little bit like a LinkedIn banner.
I didn't know that. Okay, so the recommendations are not searchable, because that's something I always tell people to look out for, because then you can also use those recommendations as testimonials on your website or in your.
You can. It's absolutely must have, especially if you have a business. It's really good to have.
Yeah.
But from a recruiter point of view, I cannot go and say, I'm looking for a recommendation that contains those keywords at the moment because I think that would be valuable for my search. That wouldn't work that way.
Okay, got it. Interesting.
But the skills really are a must.
Yeah. So as we're going through this, I'm wondering, you had a look at our 9 steps to a near perfect LinkedIn profile, and we've sort of talked about the various different sections at this point. From a recruiter's point of view, which I did not have when I wrote this, what are some of the thoughts that you have on that?
First of all, I thought it was really good. I've seen many over the years, and I'm not saying that because we're obviously live, but I really think it's good. So because it's a free aspect of what you offer, I hope that you'll put the link somewhere on YouTube later on for people to actually go and click on it. It's really good. It was useful. So it has the 9 steps. They're very clear. They're also fun. because you make some analogies that made me smile. So it's not too serious somehow, which I think makes it a lot more accessible and fun to download effectively. You have some very good points throughout. I do think that the skills should be included in there. That would be my 2 pence worth. And there was also another aspect which was still linked to the skills, but on both, I would say, the about section and each work experience that you have, make sure that you add a couple of 5 top skills on there, because that also reinforces the discoverability.
Because that is searchable, right?
Yeah, that is searchable with skills.
Yeah. That's brilliant. I love that. Now, do I want the 10 steps to a perfect LinkedIn profile? I'm gonna have to think about that. To add the skill section. But yeah, it's something that I never even, I mean, I always tell people, if you want to, stalk someone and you've run out of posts to comment on because they're not posting that frequently, go into the skills and start endorsing, because they'll see it, right? And it's just a nice way to say, like, I'm here, I'm not too stalky-ish. But yeah, I did not include that into my 9 steps. So that's I definitely think that is even as we don't think about recruiters when we build our LinkedIn profiles, but in a way, our clients are acting like recruiters, right? They're looking for a specific a specific solution to a specific problem they have, which is nothing different than from a recruiter who has a specific problem having to fill, job posting number XYZ with a skill set of ABC. So yeah. Which brings me to sort of a question to bridge this a little more into our audience, which are people are looking of small service-based small businesses who are looking to grow on LinkedIn organically to either build an audience and or find leads, right? So they're coaches, consultants, speaker authors. That's sort of the biggest group of them, and they want to be found by the right clients. So where does what you teach job seekers cross over to what they need? And some of it is what we have already talked about, but I sort of would love to have sort of a summary of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're a business owner or coach or, an entrepreneur just starting and you want to grow your network on LinkedIn, I would definitely suggest to have to activate effectively your service page, so that people get to understand that they can literally click on the link and you can get requests that way on LinkedIn, which is super cool, by the way. It's a really neat aspect of what LinkedIn offers, and you can then list pre-selected potentially keywords that LinkedIn chooses according to what you gave them, and then you can have a custom button that says view my services effectively, so that directly puts the person who lands on your page, if they click on that, then it leads them to the service page, and then they know, they can put a request from that effectively as a client lead.
Oh, interesting. And I can do that even with a basic LinkedIn profile. I don't need.
That's a really good point. I think you need premium for that. I could be wrong. I get a feeling you need premium.
Okay. Which I think, I love premium because I get the slides on my headband.
I do too.
Which I love. Jenna has a question. I haven't read it yet. So Jenna is also somebody who's regularly in our orbit. Hi, Jenna. I know you're watching him with your son who's looking for a job. Is there a way to avoid listing dates for prior major work positions and projects? Otherwise, it can feed into an ageism reaction. I think that's
That's a really good question, Jenna. Thank you for asking that. So yes, the answer is yes. There is no obligation. You have no obligation to put any dates anywhere. You can decide that instead of having 40 years experience or 30 years experience, you can have 20, because you don't need to list the one that you had before, and you can start at 20. You can equally remove the date of your graduation so that there is no discrimination. And you can position yourself as someone who's open to both freelancing, consulting, and effectively hiring, as in employee hiring kind of thing. So you could certainly overcome this kind of thing. I think there's somewhere in I don't know if it exists in the US, but I think there's somewhere in the UK that's a recruiter specifically, or a recruiting platform specifically for 50 plus, which I love the idea of a few years ago. So I don't know if that exists in the US as well, but also nice to sort of maybe follow up on that, follow company page if they exist. Again, I don't know, but worth maybe an SEO and an AI search on that. But yeah, you have no obligation to showcase anything like that. So you can make it work for yourself.
Excellent. I love it, because especially if you're in your second or third career, and your first career has no relevance anymore to what you do now, just let it fall off the bottom. Which, if you start, like, I'd be in the 60 plus category, but I mean, I don't care, but I think it does become, I think I have a couple of people that I work with who are 70 plus, and for them, I think it becomes an issue. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
For sure. Excellent question. Thank you so much, Jenna. That was a great question. This, unfortunately, we're running out of time. This has been so valuable and so fantastic. So thank you very much, Nathalie.
Thank you.
I do have the two last questions I ask of all my guests. The first one being, what is your biggest LinkedIn pet peeve, or the thing that pisses you off, be it about LinkedIn or be it about people on LinkedIn? It can be either.
Okay, I have one or two I can think of. So one would be using buzzwords. Please don't. So I don't want to know that you are a result-driven, passionate, amazing, outstanding candidate. Don't tell me that. This is such a waste of my time and space on LinkedIn. I'm sorry. I'm saying it like it is. This absolutely drives me, like, because when I read it, I'm like, no, that doesn't add anything to anyone. There's no value. You think there is, but there isn't actually. So remove any buzzword that you may think is good to have and replace it by something that a recruiter or anyone else actually would really like to read, because it adds value. So that's one. The other thing, it goes back to what we have spoken about, the title. Please don't use Chief Wizard Officer. Make it simple for us to find you. Would you actually honestly have that on a business card? This is what you have to think about, right? If you were to meet someone and you had to give in a physical, a card, a paper card, would you have it on? If the answer is no, then move on, change it effectively. So this is it. Okay. What was your second question? Sorry.
No. That was, I have not seen it. That was it. That was the first question, and it was brilliant answer. Thank you so much. And what's the biggest mistake you see people make on LinkedIn?
The list could go on this one. I will try and isolate the one that I see the most. Thinking they don't belong. Thinking they shouldn't be on there. Thinking that they've got nothing to say because they don't know how. Thinking that they're invisible and somehow okay with it as well, which is kind of sad, because I think everybody deserves to be heard and seen and noticed somehow, because we all have a contribution to make to society, community, families, whatever it is. So I would go with, you could narrow down to being an invisible passive candidate almost, or LinkedIn members. I think this can certainly be, I guess this is what I do, to help people to say, you belong, you too, you belong. No matter what you do, we all belong somehow. And so, that would be it.
Oh, that's beautiful. I really love that you said that. Thank you so much. That's a wonderful answer. And thank you for your generous thoughts on all things LinkedIn and recruiting. And I certainly learned a lot. I was very excited for this talk, and I'm still excited. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Nina, for having me on your show.
Of course. And thank you to the audience for participating, for asking great questions. And, this will be on my feed forever. So all of you who are watching the replay, If you mention Natalie and me, we still see your comments and your questions if you choose to ask us some. And I'm going to be back not next month. I'm taking a break in August, but I'll be back in September with 2 people, and we'll talk about course creation and how to teach people things that they need to learn but don't necessarily want to learn. So it'll be
interesting, exciting. Yeah.
Anyway, Natalie, thank you so much, and we will be we'll be back in 2 months.
All right,
Bye, everybody.
Bye.